Hi everyone, it's Paolo. Okay, so stop what you're doing because today we have an extra special episode because I have been waiting for this day for a long time. On our show today, I'm going to be talking with the one and only Dame Julie Andrews and her lovely daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton. Now together, they have a new children's book called The Enchanted Symphony. And let me tell you, it's so good. It's such a lovely children's book. So, for the very first time, I'll see you with Dame Julie Andrews and Emma Walton Hamilton.
Spoonful of Apollo, here we go.
Are we good? Okay, are you two ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna start by saying from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Emma. Thank you, Julie, for being a guest on A Spoonful of Apollo. I'm gonna tell you something. This is our 13th season. We've been doing our web show for over 12 years. Obviously, the name A Spoonful of Apollo, I think you know where that name came from.
I can imagine.
You know, that, because I'm respecting what's happening in the world, so that's what, you know, where that came from. So this of course, this really is a sacred, beautiful moment for us because I've dreamed of this moment, and I want anyone out there who has dreams to never give up because I will never forget this day, and I thank you both so much, okay?
So lovely. Very sweet of you. Thank you, Paolo.
Thank you. Okay, so first of all, congratulations on your new children's book, The Enchanted Symphony. Oh my gosh, do I love it. I love the story. I love how it's about music, community, hopefulness. I fell in love with Piccolino. It's a beautiful children's.
Paolo, you've got it all. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. You know, and I love how this idea really came from this photo, okay, the concert of Bielsen in Barcelona. So tell me how this photo became this beautiful children's book then.
You taking this time, Julia.
Well, so like most people, during the pandemic, we were stuck at home, and we were very, very aware of the degree to which theaters like that one in Barcelona and all over the world, and cinemas and galleries and concert halls and so forth were sitting empty, and we're struggling to find audiences. And we were also aware of how much we were filling that gap in our own lives by spending more time in nature. And Mom was on, I think it was YouTube.
Something like that, yeah.
And came across this photo, and there's a little video to go with it. And she shared it with me, and she said, look at this picture of a theater filled to the rafters with houseplants.
And it completely captured my imagination. I mean, we're great lovers of nature. We're great lovers of words and music and everything. And it looked like the perfect fit.
The marriage of the two things we love most.
But we didn't want to write about the pandemic or COVID. We didn't want that to be the central theme of the book. So our challenge was, what would encourage somebody to want to put so many plants in a concert, in a beautiful opera house like that?
Yes.
And somebody came up with the idea of this mysterious fog that envelops the village, which really is supposed to represent anything that threatens to distract us from the simple pleasures that matter most to us in life.
Yeah, it's a reminder. It really is a beautiful
Maybe
reminder.
a little fable that you have to.
Yeah, it's about mindfulness in a way, and thinking about what values you hold dear and you cherish, and staying true to those.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful reminder. And when I saw the illustrations, when this book arrived and I saw the illustrations, it literally is like this 3D beautiful painting that you're turning page by page. I fell in love with it. So, and my reaction was so grand. When you guys saw it for the first time, you know, wherever the book came in the mail or if they send you an email, were you like, Julie, were you like, oh my God, Emma, get over here? You know, like, what was that like?
We were fortunate enough to be asked if there was anybody that we loved, that we thought would be the perfect fit for this book to illustrate it. And Ellie Mackay was first on our list, and our publishers agreed, which was a great joy. So there was much back and forth, and she has a very interesting way of working. You mentioned 3D. She has a background, oddly, in theater too, which surprised us.
I had never worked with her before. This was new.
Yeah, all our books are with different illustrators, of course. Unless it's a series. But this wonderful lady, she lives in Canada. She draws, of course, mock-ups, and then she cuts out all the characters. She then cuts out all the homes and houses and important things, and paints them all and paints the background, and puts them all in a miniature theatre proscenium setting. She then lights the whole thing like it was a small theatre production, and then photographs it. And that's why you saw the characters leap out at you in the foreground. And I mean, it's subliminal, but it is brilliantly conceived. And it must take their age.
We actually didn't know that was her process when we expressed our wish that she might be the person to illustrate the story. We had just fallen in love with pictures of hers that we had seen, and the quality of translucence.
Yeah, I was just going to say luminosity.
Yeah.
And who could best paint a purple fog, which is the central, another character in the book in a way, and yet allow a transparency in that painting to show what's going on behind it and through the fog. And she does such a beautiful job.
And then, of course, when we discovered her technique, we were just blown away because it underscores the whole theme of the book in terms of valuing the arts and the performing arts in particular. And so we were her handle, her social media handle is Theater Clouds. It was just such a perfect name for what she was able to capture.
You know, just sitting here listening to you both, like, just talk about this book, like, I'm having so many pinch me moments, but I know that, like, you guys started writing together, Emma, when you were 5 years old, you know, like, this book that you guys have revisited and rewrote over and over, that now that book is called Simeon's Gift, and I think it was your 6th or 7th book that you guys published together, but here we are in 2023, and you both have written over, like, 35 books. Like, do you get, like, shocked? Does that surprise you? Are you like, we're gonna have, like, what does that feel like?
It makes time seem to have passed very fast.
Yeah.
But also, it is a surprise.
It is a complete surprise. It makes me feel very old.
What else? How do you think I feel?
But yes, it's a thrill. It's an absolute thrill. And, you know, who knew that we would be, when we sat down to write our first book together, who knew that it would be the first of 35 books?
Or that we would be compatible.
Or even that we would be compatible writing together.
We have, go on.
No, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say we had worked together creatively before in other areas, venues, and in other work forms. But I think that probably contributed to making it possible for us to write together.
To visualize.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
But go ahead. You say now.
I was just going to say that the wonder of it is that we have very different strengths, which are very compatible. She's the glue, the nuts and bolts, the structure. The structure of the book is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I deal more with the flights of fancy, the chapter openings, the closings, the endings of the chapters, and the flights of fancy that might take you off on another road for another
character
or another
image.
Yeah.
Oh,
and we don't.
It's a good pairing.
And yes, it is. And although we have opinions, we always have said, and it's worked, that somehow we recognize that the best idea wins. And if we're passionate about something enough, then the other goes along with it in some way. And we have never had an absolutely classic row about anything. It's just chatting. It's a wonderful sandbox.
It really is.
It can play, yeah.
Yeah, I know your relationship is so special. You know, Julie, when you grew up, you loved to sing. And when you lost your voice, I know it took a while to like really figure out where it was all taking you. It was taking you to writing all the signs. And then one day your lovely daughter said to you, Mom, you just found a new way of using your voice. How did
How did that
one moment become like your aha or life-changing moment for you? Just hearing that from Emma.
Very much so, very much so. It was as if a great weight fell off my shoulders, and I suddenly thought, yeah, there are many, many ways to voice what I love and do. And as you've probably noticed, so many of our books are to do with music, nature, and the arts in general. And they're all the things that we've been passionate about our whole lives. So in a way, we're doing mini productions all the time. I mean, it is a joy for us.
It really is.
It's all storytelling, of course.
Because singing is storytelling, really.
Yeah.
It's just, what I love about that story is that, you know, with so many, when you go through something so personal and it's life-changing, you remind everyone, Julie, that even in the dark time, there's still light, and just go to that light and something will come about, and that's what you did.
Or it will come to you in some way.
Yes.
And Emma said that. I was pretty depressed and sad. But my gosh, I did know that I couldn't wallow too much in that depression, that I must do something. And along came our writing together, which is a gift.
Wow. You know, for you,
Yeah.
Emma, you grew up with two very creative parents, very successful parents. You're very creative. I mean, you write, produce, perform, direct. You and your husband were in charge of a theater for 17 years. When you look at your life, because you're very creative, when you told your parents, your mom and your beloved father, and when you said, look, I think I want to be creative and go towards that area, were your parents like, oh no, you need to become a doctor or a lawyer? Or did your mom use her favorite 4-letter word?
No,
or were they like,
no.
no, do it. Like, what was that like?
Well, it's interesting. They never said you have to become a doctor or a lawyer. I think they knew that would have been a good fit for me. But one thing that it makes me smile is I remember when I was little, before I knew I wanted to be creative, I would say things like, I want to be a vet when I grow up, or I want to be a fireman when I grow up, or something like that. And my mom would always say, she says that now, but what she's really going to grow up and be is a writer.
Oh.
And the reason for that is that when you were born, I was given two very important horoscopes, which I didn't know or don't know today whether I totally believe in all the projections, but both of those horoscopes said that she would be a writer and that she would probably focus on words and poems and poetry or lyrics. And she this year published her first book of poems.
Congratulations, Emma. That's amazing.
Door to Door is a wonderful little book.
Okay.
And I'm so proud. But somehow, everything that was in those horoscopes proved to be
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And I kept saying, oh no, I'm not going to do that.
There probably was a certain inevitability about it because, you know, I also had step-parents growing up who were creative. And so not just 2, but 4 very creative influences surrounding me growing up.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done anything else.
And it gave you an identity because, of course, I had 4 other children, all doing their own thing in life. And I think that was what made you so individual for that, for your talent and your...
Wow. You know, for you, Julie, I know your parents told you growing up, the first word you said was home. And you were sitting on your mom's lap. Your dad was driving his old Austin 7 car. You pulled up to that tiny little driveway, and then you said the word home. Who instilled the importance and the meaning of home? And what it meant, because you're so close and attached to home, meaning where you grew up, your family.
Not only that, but home is everywhere. I mean, home is making the hotel room as cozy as possible. Home is traveling and making my dressing room feel like I'm close to my family in some way. It is loving what you do does become home no matter what. I think because my mother used to say it to me, I repeated it as a very young child just to see what it felt like. And that first word home means so much to me because I was away so much and touring so much as a child performer, and later on going to America, have been fortunate enough to do all that. But then home became even more important because letters from my dad, telephone calls, which cost a fortune in the earlier days, meant so much to me. So home was a very easy title to find. And then homework was the years in Hollywood, which is the second bio. Emma's helping me write the third.
Here's the second one. I just reread it, and I know you guys are working on that third one, so I can't wait. Yes.
It's going to be called Home Stretch, I think. We hope. We hope.
Okay, so we hope. Okay, that's a good. Okay, thank you. And speaking of home, for you, Emma, when you celebrated your 15th birthday, your mom was in Europe, but then when you came home, your mom was in your room on the bed, wrapped in crepe paper, and then you did that happy tears. Okay, that moment you had with your mom, how did that help you become this amazing mother you are to your 2 kids?
Oh boy,
she's a fabulous mom to her kids. Probably much better than I am.
Well, I think probably that what I picked up from you and from that moment, as well as many others, is that the priority that children need to be in one's life. When you bring a child into the world, they don't ask to be born, and so you have to essentially turn over the priority of focus to
have that responsibility.
Yeah,
it's awesome to a new mother to suddenly have a baby that you've got to really. That's going to be the concentration of your life. You know, it's going to be what you.
And you think you know. I mean, I thought I knew what love was, but boy, when you have a child, you realize this is a person I would lay down on railroad tracks for, you know.
I used to think exactly the same thing. Yeah. Not railroad tracks exactly, but I would lay down my life, you know, for my kids. The other thing is that I think I learned from my father, because he gave all his kids the most enormous respect. He treated us as individuals and adults. He never talked down to us. He considered us beloved equals. Wow. And what a wonderful example for me. And then I guess a little bit I might have passed it on to Ella. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Julie, your parents did a wonderful job in raising you, because I know that you don't take things for granted. You worked really hard. You count your blessings. You have a saying that I know you have the sign above your door in your house that says, "Are we lucky or what?" So, where does that come from? Because you could be the opposite and be like this diva and like, you know, but you really have so much, like, you know, you're blessed and you don't take it for granted. So where does that all come from? Like, and showing that to your kids and your grandkids and your great grandkids.
So many places, but there are so many other people that can do what I do, and as I was growing up particularly, and probably even better. My mother used to say, "Don't you dare get a swollen head, be grateful." And wow. She was absolutely right. She was in the theater as well, of course, but just all the examples around me and the good fortune that passed by my nose, seemingly fell onto my desk, whatever it was. I mean, imagine how fortunate can you be. The learning years were hard and tough, and we were very, very, very poor, but somehow miracles happened, and I was invited to go to Broadway, and then invited to go to Hollywood, and it all evolved, and I am deeply grateful to all the mentors and all the people that made it happen for me, because I was as green as grass to begin with, you know.
Wow. Oh my God. You know, Emma, when you know, for the kids, the grandkids and the 3 great grandkids, I know they call your mom Granny Jewel. Yes. But for them, like, when did they realize that she's not just Granny Jewel, but she's also Dame Julie? You know, for them, like, do they know that? Do you talk about it with them? Do they ask you questions?
It's so funny, you know. They just sort of grown up knowing, I guess, by osmosis, as I did, but there have been occasional moments where I think the penny has dropped, and one was when my son was about 3, and we were over at a friend's house for dinner, and they had children of the same age, and they were all sitting in the family room watching a movie, and it was one of her movies.
Wow!
And I could see Sam, stretching, about 3. I could see him making the connection. And even though she was in full costume, and I said, "Is that someone you recognize?" And he was like, "Yes," but he wasn't quite sure, you know. And finally I said, "Do you think that might be Granny Jules?" Even though, you know, it was a very different, much younger Granny Jules than he knows. He said, "Yes." And you could suddenly see that he recognized. Yeah.
And when he came home that day and I happened to stop by, he said, "Hello, Granny Jules." And then I know something now, you know. It was adorable.
Oh my God, I love that story. You know, Julie, when you were talking about the girl early when she was singing, I remember the story of you being 12 years old and making your debut on the London stage, and you went last and people stood up and they applauded you because you were just phenomenal. If that 12-year-old girl can just like vision and see everything you've accomplished and all the dreams that came true and the beautiful family you have, what do you think that 12-year-old girl would say to you right now at this moment where we are, you speaking with me?
Well, again, are we lucky or what? I mean, I can't say it more clearly than that. I just think life's been extraordinary, and yeah, a lot of hard work, but such joy. And I honestly, if people could find what they love to do in life, it is a hard job, particularly Broadway, I think, because you repeat the show night after night and for a very long run. But somehow finding what you love to do, it isn't then as much hard work, and learning all the time. I'm still learning. My entire life, I think I've been learning, and finding out and being curious. It's terribly important. I'm sorry, I'm waffling on here a bit.
No, you could talk, you could just say whatever you want to say, please. I'm just listening. I'm so intrigued. I am curious about that 12-year-old girl. What book would she be reading, like, at that time? Like, what was her book that's like, oh, I have to read this book?
Oh, there's a book that my father gave me. He was a teacher, and he bought me a little book, a beautiful little volume of a book called The Little Grey Men. He went to the local bookstore and said, "Here, darling, this I think you'd enjoy. Beautifully written, exquisitely done, with beautiful lino-cut illustrations. And it's a simple story, but very important. It's about nature, of course. It's a nature story, really, about the 4 last gnomes that lived in England. There were no more, and they had these wonderful names, Dodder, Baldrony, Sneezewort, and Cloudberry, and they go try to find the source of the little brook where they live, near where they live. And the adventures that they have along the way are real and beautifully told, and they get into all kinds of danger, and it's just the most enchanting book that I ever read, even to this day, for children. And so I read it to my children, and you read it to your children, and that's my choice. And your choice, darling, would be...
Well, the most influential book of my youth was The Phantom Tollbooth, which was by Norton Jester and had illustrations by Jules Pfeiffer. And that book celebrated language. There was a whole section, it was fantasy, and there was a whole section about a village called Dictionopolis, where they sold words in an open-air marketplace, and the words had flavors and textures and colors and aromas.
That's great.
And that just so captured my imagination, and I really think that's sort of the roots of why I love to write and why I love language today.
And you do
But
it...
finding that.
Yeah.
Of course, truly, for me, it's all about telling a story. Singing a song, as I said, is like exactly that.
Yeah.
And reading a book is exactly that. It's about the language, and words matter.
Yeah, words do matter. And as you were saying this, I'm thinking, like, Emma, if you could write a book today on the beautiful, sacred, loving relationship you have with your extraordinary mother, what would you want people to know after reading it, that making sure that this is what I want you to get out of about reading this book about my mother?
There's an awful lot in between, I'm sure.
I think what I would want people to get out of it is an interest, or for it to hopefully spark a curiosity to explore their own parents, their mother, their father's life and relationship in the way that I've been given the opportunity to. It's such a gift to be able to hear the stories and help transcribe them and help share them, and it's you know,
I
one that
remember
I
when we started writing the first memoir, that you kept saying, I never knew about the war, really.
Yeah, it's so enriching to hear the stories that came before you, and to know what's in your own DNA, and her resilience and her transcendence in her life, you know, has very much rubbed off on me and taught me so much. And so I'm always saying to people, you know, before your parents get too old, sit down and talk to them. And even if you don't publish the book, at least, you know, get it on tape. And then
I happen to be lucky enough to do that with my dad.
Yeah.
And my aunt, too. Yeah, not my mom's aunt, and she'd passed by then. But I'm so glad I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, because your relationship really reminds me a lot of my relationship with my beloved mother. She passed away last year. She was 65. She had cancer. And when I see you two and I see this bond, I feel like I'm so grateful. I mean, one of the memories I cherish with my beloved mother was, you know, growing up, we lived in this suburb area called Glenview, and every holiday there's a show that came on, and I think we know what show that was, and my mom and I would watch it. So I just know that she would be so proud of me, that the dream came true. I get to talk with both of you. Like, it's a beautiful...
I'm sure she knows.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful moment. So this is what we want to do, a couple things. I know your birthday's next month, Julie, so what we want to do to celebrate your birthday, and both of you for being guests on our show, is we want to donate 25 copies of your book to Book Fairies. Okay, so they're going to get your book in the hands of children in under-resourced areas across Long Island and in New York City. So that's what we're going to do.
Thank you so much, Bob.
That is so kind. And
could have not
you
done
know
anything
book
better.
fairies, and we love the book fairies. So bless your heart. That is, of course, our home neighborhood.
Are they the people that go door?
Yeah, they
leave
will
the
leave
surprises.
surprises for people to find. And they are extraordinary. So
Thank you so much for thinking to do such a
Oh
lovely...
no, we have to, because I really do love your book so much, and I want other kids who can't get a copy of it or their hands on it. I'm like, this way we can just pay it forward. I've learned from both of you and everything you wrote about, so we want to do the same thing. Okay, so really, so thank you. Okay, so
that means ideal.
you're welcome to both of you. Now, our last thing is, I have to do this for you, Julie. We did this. We are going to present you something. We did this when Gloria Estefan, Whoopi Goldberg, Susan Lucci, Carol Burnett, your chum, was a guest on our show, and so.
Oh my goodness me, they're all chums actually.
Yeah. Okay. So this is in honor.
Yes.
Thank you. In honor of you being a guest, we are. This was my husband designed this, and this beautiful thick. It's a Legend Award, and this is for you. Patrick put the light so you could see it. This was made.
Gorgeous, Pat. Thank you.
Goodness, how beautiful.
That's absolutely lovely.
Yeah. This is for you, and I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to read you what the quote is on here. You can hold it, Patrick.
Tell me what it is.
There's a quote on there, okay? So it's called "Are We Lucky or What?" And here's a quote from your daughter Emma that has been engraved in this beautiful. We call it a Spoonful of Apollo Luckiest Legend Award. This quote is, "So, Mom, if anyone is lucky, it is I, for being born your daughter, for the love and support you give in endless abundance, for the joyful, creative partnership we now share, and for the lessons in grace and perspective I learned at your knee, Emma Walton Hamilton." So that is for you.
Thank you.
Great. Oh, wow.
Thank you so much. And boy, did you do your homework.
Yes, that its entire interview. I'm staggered that you remember and did asked us so much, talked about so much.
Well, you inspired. You know, when we launched this show, I was working on the talk on CBS at the time, and I came home one day and I said to my husband, I don't want to wait for someone to give us the show. I want to do it, and he helped me, and we launched it. And you guys really were in that dream list of like Carol Burnett, Whoopi Goldberg, and so I've been waiting for this moment, and so please believe me when I say that I will forever be grateful and that I love you both, and I want anyone out there who's inspired to not give up on their dreams. So thank you both so much.
I endorse all that you're saying, and thank you for saying it so beautifully. Who else is on your wish list?
Well, I think we can end the show because you guys are on our show now. But I just there's so many people. But I mean, I really got to talk with so many people who I love. And just yesterday, we had Anne Margaret on our show. So this was really special.
Lovely lady.
But honestly, having you both on the show really, it just reminds me that anything is possible. And I really will be forever grateful because this book really it inspired me. And I want every kid, every adult out there to know that there's hope. You don't give up. And even in the darkest time.
Find out ultimately what is important in this world, what's important to them.
Yes. So just thank you. What a beautiful, beautiful book. So thank you both so much.
Well, thank you for saying so many lovely things, and thank you, Patrick.
Yay! He designed it.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so I will contact Steve. I'll get a mailing address, then we'll ship it over to you, the award, and then you could put it wherever you want to put it, even behind, right next to that clock. You can put it in that office. We'll be happy.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Love.
God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Okay?
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.